I think, occasionally, about the worst candy bar I ever ate, purchased on an overnight bus trip from Istanbul to Izmir back in 1986, and which had a picture of a donkey on the wrapper. This should have been a red flag. And a thick strip of cardboard to make it seem bulkier, and which tasted like rancid carob and had a consistency similar to the sandy stuff Dr. Gulevich used to blast between my teeth. More often, though, I think about the candy bars of my youth that no longer exist. The Scrunch Bar, the Star Bar, Summit, Milkshake, Powerhouse, and more recent bars which have been wrongly pulled from the shelves. Hershey's Sublime Cookies and Mint leaps to mind, and I say Kaddish for all of them. And when I say I think about these bars, I am not referring to some momentary pulsing of the nostalgia buds. I am talking about detailed considerations of how they looked and tasted. The whipped splendor of the Chocolite, whose tiny air pockets provided such a piquant crunch, the oral analog to stomping on bubble wrap, the unprecedented marriage of peanuts and wafers in the Bar None, the surprising bulk of the Reggie, little more than a giant peanut turtle, but round, a bar that dared to be round. Or, at the other extreme, the Marathon Bar, which stormed the racks in 1974, enjoyed a meteoric rise, died young, and left a beautiful corpse. The Marathon, a rope of caramel covered in chocolate, not even a solid piece, that is, half air holes, an obvious rip-off to anyone who has mastered the basic Piagetian stages, but we couldn't resist the gimmick. And then, as if we weren't bamboozled enough, there was the sleek red package, which included a ruler on the back, and thereby affirmed the first rule of male adolescence. If you give a teenage boy a candy bar with a ruler on the back of the package, he will measure his dick. Oh, where are you now, you brave, stupid bars of yore? Where Oompas, those delectable doomed pods of chocolate and peanut butter? Where the molar-ripping Bito-Chalk? And where Caravelle, a bar so dear to my heart that I remain 2 decades after its extinction in an active state of mourning? Without necessarily intending to, I keep abreast of candy. I can tell you, for instance, that Hershey's introduced in the fall of 2002 a Kit Kat bar with dark chocolate. I spent 2 weeks searching for this bar, because I had tasted a similar bar 15 years earlier when I lived in Jerusalem, and back then the taste had made me dance in happy little non-denominational circles, flapping my arms. Why 2 weeks? Because giant candy companies like Hershey's rarely devote an entire production line to a new product without market testing, which means producing a limited edition, which means people like me, that is, candy freaks, have to stop in every single mobile station in the greater Boston area and ask the staff if they have Kit Kat Darks, because that is where my friend Alec told me he found his. Well, in the end, Alec, with whom I play squash, though as a tandem we somewhat belittle the definition of the sport, brought me a bar purchased from the Inman Pharmacy, and I'm happy to report that it is absolutely mind-blowing. The dark chocolate coating lends the fine angles of the bar a dignified sheen and exudes a pudding-like creaminess with coffee overtones. This more intense flavor provides a counterpoint to the slightly cloying wafer and filling. By the time you read this, Kit Kat Darks will very likely have been discontinued, because they failed to make $1 gazillion, which is a sad thing for you, I promise, though not so much for me, because in an abundance of caution, I purchased 14 boxes, 36 bars per, soon after my first taste. I can also tell you that Nestle has introduced a Wonka bar, which features crumbled bits of graham cracker and milk chocolate, and which to date I have only been able to find in my local movie theater. Last spring, Nestle introduced a bar called the Mocha Crunch, which I spotted in a vending machine at Boston College, of all places, and I nearly wept with joy right there in the basement of the building where I teach college students how to write sentences far more coherent than this one, because I allowed myself to dream that the woefully neglected coffee flavor might finally be wending its way into the candy bar mainstream. I envisioned rich milk chocolate infused with the smoky tang of French roast, but the bar wasn't even made of chocolate. It was some kind of white chocolate compound that looked and tasted like vinyl. 3. The author has between 3 and 7 pounds of candy in his house at all times. Perhaps you think I am exaggerating for effect. I am not exaggerating for effect. Here is a catalog of all the candy in my apartment as of right now, 3:21 p.m., July 6, 2003. 2 pounds miniature Clark bars, 1.5 pounds dark chocolate-covered mint patties, 24 bite-sized peanut butter cups, 1 pound Tootsie Roll midgets, 4 ounces of Altoids-like cinnamon discs, 6 ounces cherry-flavored jellies, think budget Juji fruits, a single gold-foiled milk chocolate ball with mysterious butter truffle-type filling, 2 squares of Valrhona semi-sweet chocolate on my bedside table, 3 pieces Fleer bubblegum. I am not counting the 14 boxes of Kit Kat Limited Edition Dark, which I have stored in an undisclosed warehouse location, nor whatever candy I might have stashed squirrel-like in obscure drawers. My main supplier is the Candy Shop, a seconds outlet located on the ground floor of the Haviland Chocolate Factory in Cambridge. The shop is run by an elderly Chinese woman whom I've been wooing ardently for the past 2 years. We've gotten to the point where she's willing to cut open the box of mint patties I bring to the counter to make sure the batch I'm buying has the soft kind of filling I favor. She gives me freebies and glances at me occasionally in a squinting manner that combines reluctant affection with a deep, abiding pity. I am not blind to the hypocrisy of my conduct, nor to the slightly pathetic aspects of my freakdom. I am, after all, in my mid-30s, suffering from severe balding anxiety and lower back pain. I am not exactly the target demographic. What's more, my political orientation is somewhere to the left of Christ, such that I find most of American culture greedy and heedless, most especially our blithe and relentless picking of the world's resources. I have a hard time defending the production of candy, given that it is basically crack for children and makes them dependent in unwholesome ways, and given that much of our citizenry is bordering on obesity, just about what we deserve, and given that most of the folks who grow our sugar and cocoa are part of an indentured third world workforce who earn enough per annum to buy maybe a Snickers bar, and given that the giants of the candy industry are, even as I write this, doing everything in their considerable power to establish freak hegemony over what they call developing markets, meaning hooking the children of Moscow and Beijing and Nairobi on their dastardly confections. So, the question, given all this moral knowledge, how can I lead the life of an unbridled candy freak?